Hey guys, it's Skymer here, and welcome back to another episode of Triangle Strategy. In the last episode, we went back to the Roselle village, but this time we turned over a new leaf. And instead of attacking the Roselle, we protected the Roselle. And Silvio is now deceased, and his partner Rufus was left alive in a very sparing manner. I didn't really see... I did see Rufus as a threat, but honestly, he just works for money. If he's not getting paid by the person that he was supposed to be getting paid from, then Rufus has no reason to do anything. So we let him walk free. However, apparently Silvio had a parting gift. And by gift, I mean not the one that you get all neatly wrapped up in the holidays. His whole last breath ordeal was that apparently in some way, at some time, which doesn't make sense, he found his way back to communicate with Hyzant, stating that we disobeyed the Holy One's orders. Which I have to vent about for a second because the stars just don't align on this. When did Silvio have the opportunity to be able to notify them? Okay, let's just go back through the past. We're gonna take a trip back through memory lane, okay? So when I actually was siding with Rufus, he had no reason to go to Hyzant and say that we disobeyed orders because we were siding with him. Then, when we were talking with Jerome to attempt to persuade him and the other Rosellan people as to why we felt like that relinquishing them to the source is going to be the best motive for our future and their future in general, Silvio was there because he was the one that said, oh, clearly the Rosellan people are not going to listen to reason. So he was there. The only time that I felt like it could have been is that he traveled overnight or he sent a letter through the mail, at least at some point that we just didn't see. He sent a little birdie out to the Holy State to be able to inform them. Which, by the way, Hyzant, if you are really believing somebody like Silvio, I don't understand what... I don't get it. It makes no sense. Okay, let me explain my mind on this piece too. Hyzant wanted me to surrender them to the source, correct? Which means he wants them alive. They want them alive. Silvio decided to take matters into his own hands, like the brain-dead buffoon that he was, and he was going out there hurting them. If you seriously want your Rosellan people that you want to be relinquished to be injured where they can't work as hard, or dead where they can't work at all, if that's what you want, then who's deceiving who? You say I'm the one that's going against the Holy One's orders. Aren't you going against the orders you gave me? I mean, come on, man. You're just a whole bunch of hypocrites. I mean, it is just blasphemous, honestly. I really can't. I can't stand these Saintly Seven anymore. But honestly, if that is the last resort option, I will do anything in my power at this point to make sure that the Roselle are kept safe. Okay? Even if I have to be seen as a criminal to Hyzant, I already know their rules and regulations. Okay? Their whole religious system in Hyzant states that if you are convicted of a crime, you have to beat the other party that proved you guilty in combat. And if you can do that and you can survive, then that means that you walk free. So, we're just gonna have to see where the story flows from here. Sorry to vent for a little bit, but I was completely agitated. The Roselle agreed to return to the source, leaving Cyrano and the others with mixed feelings.
We survived. But what consequences must we now pay?
Worry not, my lady. I shall relay that Silvio died an honorable death in battle. Hyzant is unlikely to raise any questions, so long as we bring the Roselle back as promised.
Indeed. But we must not let Jerome or the others down. They've trusted their fates to us.
Of course. If that key they mentioned truly exists, then we can use it as leverage against Hyzant. After House Wolford's position is secure, that is.
We must move faster than that. They cannot be forced to suffer for so long.
My lord, Lady Frederica, you have no cause to concern yourselves. I am the one who made the promise, so the responsibility falls upon my shoulders.
That isn't the problem.
A disgraceful trick.
Benedict, I appreciate your motives, but
It is my duty. Leave the villain's role to me.
you misunderstand. Words must be followed by action and accepting responsibility. That is the Wolfort way. Is that not the very reason you defend our house?
My lord.
Whatever the case, we must first report to the palace. Let us discuss what we shall do after that.
The Holy One has made a decision. The Roselle have returned to the flock, and for that the goddess is pleased. Now they may begin to absolve themselves of their sins and gain true salvation. For your service in bringing this deed to pass, the Holy One has judged you worthy of a title most exalted. You are to be welcomed as one of the Saintly Seven.
That is quite the honor. While I cannot argue the courage of Lord Serenoa's deeds, I wonder if this elevation of station is premature.
Minister Axam, I seem to recall a time not long past when your detractors said the same in regards to you. However, you proved their misgivings to be unfounded, did you not? The Hierophant believes that for Hyzant to prosper, the young must be given the chance to build the foundation for the future.
Of course. My apologies for speaking out of turn.
I have no words to express my appreciation. The goddess may rest assured that I shall treat my new title with all the gravity it deserves.
The Saintly Seven are whole once more, and this marks a joyous occasion for all of Hyzant. May the goddess be with you.
So, have we earned the goddess's mercy?
More than that, in fact. I have been honored with a position as one of the Saintly Seven. After a trying journey, our worries are finally at an end.
That is heartening. The decisions we were forced to make to get here. I pray we never have to repeat them.
You have my word we never will, Frederica.
Good. Then let's return to Castle Wolford. Home at last.
It seems congratulations are in order, my friend. The future of your house is secured.
After much suffering.
That may be so, but you should still hold your head high. Not only have you protected those that serve you, but you have uplifted them to even greater heights.
Perhaps, but my rise to power was built on the sacrifices of many.
Those sacrifices were made purposeful by your judgment, Serenoa. You've grown to meet the changes fate has brought. Thinking back on the day you first met Frederica, I hardly recognize you now.
That day seems so far away now.
Would you go back if you could? Back to those carefree days?
I don't know.
I wouldn't. At first, I would awake every morning with a heavy heart. Images of the peaceful Glenbrook from my dreams lingering in my mind. It was all I could do to simply survive through the day. But our encounter with the Roselle made me realize something. I could no longer live in self-pity. To do so would be to invite a slow and insidious death. I had to make a stand. I had to act. I had to be ready to discard this mask once and for all. My friend, I have a request to make of you, selfish as it may be. Aid me in my fight against S-Frost. I want you by my side when I see the Archduke laid low.
Of course.
Wow, that was a lot of conversation. That was a lot to take in. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I actually did manage to persuade them to make me a part of the Saintly Seven. Oh my gosh. Wow, Serenoa's got a resume now. Talk about being the Lord of House Wolford, and now you're a member of the Saintly Seven's Minister of Salt. Wow. Okay. He's got a reputation building. But okay. With Frederica, I'm actually siding more with her because now that the fate of my house has been quite secured, at least for the time being, that is, if that is the case, and my house attempts to restore back to a balance, I believe that I can start going behind Hyzant's back if I can start learning the deeper secrets that it holds. Right now, that's my way of trying to get the Roselle to be able to see their eventual freedom. You know, if that is possible. Maybe it is doing some darker deeds, but at the same time, they've treated me well and they've treated me poorly. There's no denying that. Hyzant is just a mixed deck of cards. You know, some of them are going to be good for you and some of them just won't work at all. And so yeah. In terms of Roland saying that he wanted me to aid him with S-Frost, now, that's debatable. First of all, I've been doing a lot for the Rosellan people. If I happen to diverge to S-Frost now, it will make everything that I've been doing for the past, like, 3 chapters, or so, or 4 chapters even, because Booker, Sorsley, the first Rosellan fight, and then the second Rosellan fight, yeah, the past 4 chapters, it will be all for naught. I mean, I was doing this all so I could attempt to make myself one of the members of the Saintly Seven so I could continue to strengthen my house back up if I could. From literally the ground up, because we've literally just been scraping at clawing our way back to power, if we can, by all, you know, the purposeful sacrifices, as Roland may say. So it would make all that seem like it was for nothing. And I can't do that to the Roselle, unfortunately. I mean, that would be quite a selfish decision, you know, to side with Roland over siding with everybody else that is the Roselle and Frederica and everything for Hyzant, too. Alright, before we get into the red exclamation marks, let's continue with the green ones first. At the Ministry of Medicine, Lila informs someone of the Holy One's orders.
The Holy One has ordered for us to deliver our Elfric to House Wolfort.
And here I thought your research results to be top secret. What a curious turn of events.
Perhaps the Hierophant determined it a good chance to test them in the field. They could easily sink an S-Frosty ship or two.
And yet I see not a trace of a smile on you.
I never wanted to build weapons for war.
Yet you don't think twice about toying with human life. How ironic.
How dare you!
Have a wonderful day.
The audacity of Edor's dog.
That scene right there is a display of what I'm worried about. First of all, what is this power she speaks of that the Hierophant wants to give to House Wolffort? I don't know if I like that. I mean, yes, it sounds very powerful. I mean, she said that we could sink multiple Frosty ships if we wanted, which is so amazing. We could decimate so many of their forces almost immediately. But does that mean we have to use it now, or does that mean that it's just going to be gifted to us at a time that we can use whenever we want it? But at the same time, I mean, they have such a massive army that's been being built up, because if you think about it, they've been quiet for a long time. They were very aggressive at the beginning of this series, but now they've kind of quieted down because they're plotting, because they've already broken ties with Hyzant. So I guess now, actually it makes sense now, that Hyzant wants to start making moves back at them since they broke the treaty. But I can't help but feel like that was such a massive army that they've been building up over all the time that they've been dormant. I shudder to imagine that even sinking a couple of ships is not going to do a whole lot in terms of taking out a whole lot of their military, but I don't know. Okay, so since Hyzant's the more like core focus of our story right now, let's go ahead and shift the tide. Let's go back to Whiteholm Castle. A missive arrives from Cycrus? Is that his name? Or Secrus? It's either Cycrus or Secrus, most likely. Alerting Gusadolf to dangers back home.
Are you certain it's wise to return to Esfrost alone, Your Grace? You are needed here.
If Cycrus's missive is to be believed, I'm afraid matters are far too grave to be left to anyone else. Svarog's deception is nearing its climax. His ill-gotten profits are being used to build a weapon of untold destructive power.
Our anonymous source from the manufactory hinted at as much. Svarog is bold to have carried out his plan this far.
Death Snell? What's that?
Let the adults speak, my dear.
If we're to be wed, then there should be trust between us. How long do you intend on treating me like a child?
Very well. Tell her, Thalos.
If you insist, brother. This weapon combines the powerful explosives developed by Dragan with Esfrost's mastery of steelcraft. Although yet to be tested, this cannon is said to have the power to breach even Hyzant's walls. The goddess's shield would buckle under a single blast.
But the shield is impregnable.
I have heard nothing of this. Do you think so little of your general?
A general is to win me victory, as and when I command it.
Svarog's intent isn't to bring Hyzant to heel, however. He means to use the cannon against Brother. But the fool was so blinded by ambition that he never saw the strings guiding his every deed.
Fool that he may be, he served his purpose well. The cannon could not have been made without his engineers and Dragan's research. He will die secure in the knowledge that his bloodline contributed to the glory of Esfrost. Sadly, he shall not live to see his work completed. With it, we shall do what our forebears could not. The goddess's shield shall yield before Esfrost's might and ingenuity.
If we can even approach the walls, brother, the trade embargo will ensure that Hyzant is especially wary of our actions.
On the contrary, their focus will turn inward. With naught else to leverage their influence with, they will take measures to see that none of their precious salt escapes their borders. There may be some gnashing of teeth, to be sure, but it will only be in an attempt to hide their inner turmoil. Erica, muster a force and march to the Hierophant's palace at once. Deliver to Hyzant my final demands.
As you wish, brother. I shall gather what news I can of the Saintly Seven's machinations.
Thalos, you will remain in Glenbrook. Conduct yourself as if I had never left.
You hardly need ask, brother.
That is all. Now go.
Even his own flesh and blood are but tools to be used and then discarded when their purpose is served.
He has faith only in himself. Such has ever been his way.
May the plot ever thicken. So it sounds like now, not only is Hyzant bringing out some of their biggest secrets and most powerful weapons, Esfrost is doing the same thing. Svarog wants to use it on Gustadolf because of the factor that I guess he's found out a lot of information and he wants to take out, all of, his son's research and blast it out onto Whiteholm Castle. But now it sounds like that Svarog isn't going to make it to live to tell the tale. But this makes me think that if they were to breach this so-called impregnable shield around the city, if they were to hit it down, that would be really, really bad news. I mean, serious bad news, because this goddess's shield was the thing that actually protected them quite severely during the Salt Iron War. I ended up buying some history books from Archibald in the encampment, and I was studying a lot about the past of the Salt Iron War, and that was the way that Hyzant was very secure throughout it. I mean, of course, they did suffer many casualties, but the army took so long to get past the outer wall that Hyzant had time to fortify at least some of their defenses. So they were at least decently prepared. So I don't know what to expect from this from the future of this game, but it sounds like things are getting real and they're getting intense. Let's proceed back to the Hierophant's Palace. Serenoa and Roland, plan in hand, attend the Congress of Saints.
Now, let us commence the Congress of Saints. I believe Minister Serenoa had an issue to bring to the collective.
Thank you, Minister Idor. It concerns the trade embargo. This is a plain show of aggression from Esfrost. They mean to weaken us before they strike. That is why we must crush them before they do. I would ask for my pleas to be heard by the goddess.
This is not a matter to be taken lightly, my lord.
Esfrost's declaration was a surprise, to be sure.
But without salt, Esfrost's people will suffer. If they refuse trade, we shall oblige them until they see reason. Let them have their futile posturing.
Apologies for my boldness, but I must urge you to treat this situation with gravity. The Archduke is no fool. There is doubtless an ulterior motive behind this embargo.
Is that so? Such as?
I believe his aim is to crush his enemies in one swift assault, just as in the Salt Iron War.
Esfrost's army would again stoop to such skullduggery? As if our memories are so short. Esfrost and Glenbrook tried the same, at once declaring war and attacking our sacred city. But history remembers their failure.
They sacrificed their honor in vain, as their assault proved impotent against the goddess's shield. Defeat quickly followed.
Indeed, and Gustadolf's memory is as long as anyone's. He would not try again, unless he had a means to bypass the goddess's shield, which I believe now he has.
You cannot mean... They're explosives. The very technology researched by Dragan to aid in mining. I had never considered it could be used in warfare, but the idea is not beyond imagining.
I see. It is clear that to ignore this possibility would be folly. What measure would you suggest we take, Minister Serenoa?
I would bring the fight to Esfrost. Strike first while their plan is yet in its infancy. The Archduke is bold because he commands the strength of Glenbrook. If the Wolfort forces were to take the capital, he would lose that foothold and be forced to retreat. All I require is the leave of the Holy One.
A daring plan, Minister Serenoa. Let us suppose you did win back Glenbrook. Who then would rule over its people? Will you leave Cordelia, assuming she still lives, to sit on the throne as queen?
All reports indicate she is naught but a puppet of Esfrost. We would suffer her rule at her own peril.
And if House Wolfort were to assume the throne, they would be decried as usurpers.
A troubling complication indeed.
I believe I can present your solution. For you see, the second Prince of Glenbrook yet lives. And he stands before you now.
Impossible. Esfrost trumpets your death across the realm.
Another deception, it would seem. There can be no mistaking those features.
I shall give power in Glenbrook, and pledge allegiance to Hyzant.
Oh, would that every Council of the Seven were this eventful. For the Prince of Glenbrook to drive Esfrost from his ancestral home, I can imagine no greater justice. But what do you make of this, Your Holiness? Do you find Lord Wolfort's proposition to be a wise one? Understood, Your Holiness. Lord Wolfort, Prince Roland, the goddess has hearkened to your plea and has passed down her judgment. You are to have the full support of Hyzant and her people. Lay Esfrost low and drive back the discord that threatens to engulf Nozelia. If there is aught you require, you need only ask. Her servants are at your complete disposal. Grand Constable Roland, Lord Wolfort of the Seven, walk with courage and smite thine enemies. The goddess shall be at your back.
We shall bring her glory.
For Hyzant.
There is much preparation to be done. Together, we shall bring an end to Esfrost's hubris.